Hello, everyone. It is me, once again, Megachamp, and I have once again finished another game that I was currently playing. It becomes pretty obvious what I'm doing pretty quickly, though, so that's nice, I guess. But I have finally gotten around to official quote-unquote PS5 games now. And the one that I just finished was Sackboy, A Big Adventure, a cutesy platformer for the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 4. Obviously, though, it's not like a PlayStation 5 exclusive, but it's still a PlayStation 5 game, obviously, so. As always, you know the drill when it comes to these sorts of things. It's time for me to give my full thoughts on this game, and I might actually have more to say than you might think. If anyone watched that last stream I did, even though I had to cut it short because of something I'll get into here in a bit. But as always, as per normal, when it comes to anything anymore, I guess, these are just my personal thoughts, experiences, feelings, and opinions on this game. And everyone's thoughts, feelings, experiences, and opinions are going to be different at the end of the day. And I guess that's really all I need to say about that. So, you can have my opinion, and you can have your opinion, and I'll have my opinion. You're not going to have my opinion, obviously, but you get the point. You can have your opinion, I'll have my opinion. So, as always, the 5 things that I will be going through. Guess what? It's actually going to be 6. The 5 things, as per normal, are the story, the characters, the world of the game where the game takes place, the graphics, and the gameplay. So, Sackboy, A Big Adventure. Let me start off by saying, before I do anything or even say anything, let me start off by saying, do not make the same mistake I did with this game. Just don't. And by that I mean, don't feel like a jerk and underestimate this game. Just don't. Because that's what I did. I severely underestimated this game. And now I feel like a jerk. I still feel like a jerk. And in all brutal honesty, I'm actually glad this game came with my PlayStation 5 bundle that I got. I'm extremely glad it came with it, honestly. I should have if I had known this game was this good, I would have gotten it. But hey, you live and you learn, I guess. So there's a kind of hint as where this is going. But obviously there's not much to really say for the first 2 categories here. So the story of this game is very simplistic. That's kind of platformers in general. The story isn't really anything major or anything amazing for the most part. It's very generic and very simplistic. If you ask me, platformers have always been about the gameplay and not the story or the characters. There are obviously platformers that have a good story and good characters, although I'm not really sure I've played any platformers like that. Maybe the first Crash game and the first Spyro game, but other than that, there aren't really a lot of platformers that have a good story and good characters, because it's all about, platforming and the gameplay, if you ask me at least. I also said that during my stream, but that's just if you ask me and my thought and feeling and opinion on the matter. But what I will say about the story is it's actually kind of similar to Spyro the Dragon in a sense at least, and that it's kind of a underdog story, so to speak, where an unexpected person becomes a hero and saves their little world, so to speak, where, Sackboy has to save his LittleBigPlanet world, which is called Craft World in this game, from the big bad, from the big evil, from the person causing the bad stuff, the nightmares, Vex. It is what it is, I guess. I mean, it's a good little underdog story where an unexpected person becomes a hero. Although I say that, but one of the characters that you get introduced to very quickly says that they were kind of meant for this, so it's kind of a destiny slash fate slash whatever you want to call that situation. But he does kind of struggle a bit, and there's some stuff that happens, and he doubts himself and stuff like that. So it's still kind of a decent underdog story, kind of similar to the first Spyro game in a sense. Because if you remember the first Spyro game, if you have played the first Spyro game, which you should, but I'll give a quick rundown here. So in the first Spyro game, none of the elder dragons or the older dragons or the adult dragons, whatever you want to call the grown-up dragons in the first Spyro game, none of them thought Spyro was ready, quote unquote, or strong enough to deal with Nasty Nork, the villain of the first Spyro game. And multiple dragons end up getting turned to stone twice, or definitely more than once, because after they got freed, they still didn't think that Spyro was ready or strong enough to deal with Nasty Nork. So they tried to deal with him themselves after failing the first time. Well, I guess they didn't technically fail. They kind of just got turned to stone, but basically the point is they didn't think Spyro was ready for Nasty Nork and didn't think he was strong enough, so they tried to deal with him themselves, and then they got turned to stone a second time, and Spyro had to rescue them a second time. So they were a bunch of idiots, basically. So that's kind of the underdog story, mostly. But you kind of get the gist. It's an underdog story where a character, Sackboy, becomes a hero went out of nowhere, basically, when someone who doesn't seem all that strong becomes a hero and saves his little world or planet or galaxy or whatever you want to call the LittleBigPlanet worlds or Craft world or whatever. So it is a pretty decent underdog story. Spyro does that very well too, and I'm sure other platformers do that as well. Crash isn't really like that. It's more of a evil experiment goes against his creator, basically. So I don't know if there are other platformers like that. You can inform me of that if you want, but it is a pretty decent underdog story. Maybe there's a lot of platformers that do that. Sly Cooper is just about stealing stuff, I think. It's in my backlog, so I'll be finding out eventually, and I don't know anything about Jak and Daxter, but there are a couple of platformers I've heard of, at least, that are kind of like underdog stories, so it's a pretty decent underdog story for the most part, but it's still very, generic, simplistic, nothing that, you're going to praise to the ends of the earth, basically. But yeah, kind of like what I said during my stream, it's very blah. But, story isn't really the most important thing for platformers. There's nothing I can say about the characters. I mean, there's Sackboy, obviously, and this character who you get introduced to pretty quickly named Scarlet, who's kind of your main support person who cheers Sackboy on from the sidelines, even though they don't actually do anything themselves, but whatever. I guess it is kind of about the main character you're controlling and not the other people. There are other characters, obviously, in each world that you go to. There's like a crab and a monkey and a guy that researches the wildlife, an AI that, of course, gets infected with a virus, because, of course. There are other characters, obviously, but you get introduced to one in each world, Scarlet being the first one. And they're they're kind of there for the entirety of the world, but they don't actually do all that much other than kind of be there. And sometimes you're in a level with them, and sometimes they kind of help you out. Like the character that researches the wildlife, the enemies, basically. He gives you dreamer orbs, the main collectible of the game when you find them in his secret areas, which there's a trophy for, which I did get. But that was because I was going for the dreamer orbs. But they don't really do all that much. It's not like they help you against the main villain. They kind of just are like Scarlet, where they cheer you on and say, get rid of the main villain for me. And that's kind of it. So the characters are just kind of there, but, you know, it is what it is, I guess. At least they tried to put, you know, different things in each world and stuff like that. And, you know, like I said, story and characters when it comes to platformers aren't really the most important. Really, the most important character is the character you play as, so. But the characters are fine, I guess. Some of them are kind of funny. The crab is kind of funny because he's scared of the big mean fish that's in the water world that you go to, and he keeps making jokes about him getting cooked because he's a crab. But, you know, they're all interesting in their own way, I guess, but it's nothing, you know, again, that you're going to praise to the ends of the earth. But, yeah. Not much else to say in terms of the characters. The world of the game is basically the LittleBigPlanet world, except it's called Craft World. Not much to say about it other than it's where LittleBigPlanet takes place. I didn't play any of the LittleBigPlanet games. This is my first LittleBigPlanet game, quote-unquote, even though it's not an official LittleBigPlanet title. It's just technically a spin-off. I mean, the LittleBigPlanet series is kind of a platformer series. It's just user-generated. In other words, people can create the stuff for it, and you can play the stuff that people create. Kind of like that game Dreams that I never played. So basically, it's stuff that other people can create. Kind of like the Super Mario Maker stuff, and fan games and ROM hacks of other games. I don't know how else to describe it, but I never played any of the LittleBigPlanet games, but this one was actually really fun. The world is fine, I guess. I mean, there's the starting world that turns into an ice world, and then there's the forest world, the water world, the space world, and the final world. I mean, it is a good variety, I guess. It's not like massive, because that's only, what, 5-ish worlds, give or take. So it's not really massive, but at least it has a decent amount of variety, and it gets the ice stuff out of the way, although I didn't encounter any ice mechanics when I played this game, unless I'm forgetting something, but there weren't that many ice mechanics, thankfully, because ice mechanics are worst mechanics. Well, at least mostly they are when you slide around and you can't control where you're going, but the world was fine for the most part. I mean, there are probably LittleBigPlanet references in the game. I just didn't recognize them because I didn't play any of the games, and this was my first one, like I said, so. You know, the world works for what it's trying to accomplish. That's the point that I'm trying to make, I guess. So that's really all that matters for the, really. It works for what it's trying to accomplish, so world's fine. Before I get into graphics and gameplay, which we all know I'm not an expert at, guess what I'm going to talk about? Yes, it's time to once again mention something that I said I would only mention if it warranted it, and it was actually decent enough for me to mention it. And that's music. Yes, the music of this game. It's actually really goddamn good. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's really goddamn good. This game blew me away. I'm not even joking. It blew me away with the music in this game. And not only that, but this game uses licensed music, as you saw when I felt I had to end my stream early. Although when I uploaded it, it said it could be used for YouTube freely, although you probably can't monetize it, but I don't monetize my videos anyway, so it didn't matter to me. But if you do monetize your videos, then obviously it's a problem, but it let me use them just fine, so I did kind of overreact a little. But licensed music is not really something you want to play around with or mess with if you are trying to monetize your videos or whatever it is you're trying to do on YouTube. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that the music in this game is actually really goddamn good. There's no other way for me to put it. And it just, every time I thought this game couldn't blow me away with music, it blew me away with music. Like, literally the first two levels of the game have really goddamn good music. And they're both actually licensed music, technically, as well. Instrumental stuff. I mean, I kind of figured there was instrumental music that was licensed and made by official artists, but both the first level and the second level's music, so goddamn good. And I've shared some of the music on Discord, but all you really have to do is search it on YouTube. Sackboy, A Big Adventure soundtrack, not that hard. But Snowballs, Please, A Time in the East, Chef's Kiss, Chef's Kiss. I can't praise the music in this game enough. I really can't. And the licensed music is pretty good too. There's stuff from Bruno Mars, David Bowie. Yes, there's a Bowie song in this game. And Britney Spears. You heard what I just said. I'm not saying that Britney Spears is a bad artist, okay? Everyone has their preferences at the end of the day. These are just examples that I'm using. But, yeah, the licensed music in this game is actually pretty damn good, too. And some of it is actually really, really good. Like, seriously good. Even the non-licensed music that was made for this game, the original music, basically, is actually also really good. Like I just gave examples for Snowballs, Please, and then One Time in the East, or something like that. I can't remember this name of it, but it has like, it's something like the name of it is One Time in the East, or something along the lines of that. But my God, the music in this game is so goddamn good. And boy, when that happened, it was like this game went like, oh, you're gonna underestimate me? Here comes this is Sackboy coming to slap me in the face. Yeah, the music is amazing. It is actually something I did listen to, maybe not on a daily basis, but almost on a daily basis. That's how good it was. I mean, it's no Nier. Let's be honest now, it's no Nier. But it's still pretty goddamn good. And honestly, I'd even take it as far as to say that the soundtrack in Sackboy, A Big Adventure, the music, is probably the best music I've heard in a platformer in a very long time. I'm not going to say ever, because that's probably stretching it. But it's the best music I've heard in a platforming game in a really long time. So it just kept blowing me away every time I thought it couldn't blow me away more. And yes, sometimes I did listen to it on a daily basis, so it's really goddamn good. Check it out for yourself if you want. I'm not going to play it because, you know, licensing and copyright and all that fun stuff. But just search for it on YouTube. It's not that hard. Sackboy, A Big Adventure soundtrack. It is kind of hard to find the songs they used the licensed music for, but you can still find it if you just search for Sackboy, A Big Adventure soundtrack on YouTube. So just listen to it for yourself or play the game for yourself, which is probably what you should do instead. That way you're not spoiled and you can hear the music for yourself and maybe be in the same situation I was in. Although, you know, I'm trying to have you not be in that situation, but the music is really good. That's the point. The music is so goddamn good in this game. So there was no way I was going to be able to justify talking about this game without talking about the music. So goddamn good. Graphics in this game are fine, cutesy, stitched stuff, LittleBigPlanet, whatever art style you want to call that, quilted stuff. I don't know what the official word for it is. Again, you can give me official words if you want, but graphics were fine. It's LittleBigPlanet except a platformer. Crafted stuff, just, stuff that you can kind of make. So it was actually zipper stuff, It basically LittleBigPlanet in the form of a platformer. It worked for what it was trying to accomplish, and I thought it looked pretty good, honestly. Probably looks better on PlayStation 5 than PlayStation 4 for obvious reasons, but still pretty decent graphics for the most part. It accomplished what it was trying to accomplish for the game, so pretty decent. Very good, from what I thought, at least. Just me, as always. Gameplay, pretty good. Can't really say much about the gameplay. Platformers are... well, let's just say this about platformers. The further you get, the harder it gets, and that's definitely the case here, though my skill isn't exactly top tier. That's pretty clear. So if you're really good at games like this, props to you. I'm just not. But the gameplay is really fun. You saw on when I did my stream, it's really fun. A lot of unique stuff, a lot of unique enemies, a lot of unique mechanics. It does use some of the PlayStation 5 controller stuff. Not as much as Astro's Playroom does, but like you can move the controller around for like in further levels with this one little small platform, and the platform moves around when you move the controller around. So it has its unique stuff that it does with the PlayStation 5 controller. That's everything that I came across. Obviously, Astro's Playroom implemented the controller a lot more, so they could have implemented a lot more, but it was still very unique for what they did. Kind of like the motion controls for the Nintendo DS and the Nintendo 3DS and even the Nintendo Switch to an extent. So they did implement the PlayStation 5 controller stuff to the best of their ability, and it worked. Gameplay was just really fun. You get some power-ups in the game. A Mega Man-like power-up. A swing shot. That's a reference to Ratchet and Clank, which is not a hint, I swear. And other power-ups. You saw another one of the power-ups from my stream video. The little world tool that you can throw and fight long range with, which is super OP. So there are also various power-ups within the game, because it's a platformer. What, you expected there wouldn't be power-ups? They only show up in certain levels, though, so it's not like you can use them whenever you want. Probably good, because if they let you use those whenever you want, super OP, super broken, everything would have been too easy. So it's probably good they didn't let you use them whenever you want and just kept it to specific levels and specific situations. But very unique things that they did with the game, and yeah, it's just later on in the game, like around maybe World 3, World 4, definitely the last world, though. It does get pretty difficult, at least it was for me. I mean, obviously my skill isn't exactly the best, like I just stated, but platformers get harder the further you get, and it gets harder to do absolutely 100% of everything in the levels, and I managed to actually do 100% of everything to a certain extent. There were certain specific levels that I couldn't do it in, like the on rails level where you're on something and it just keeps going no matter what you do, or the auto-scrolling levels. Those were the levels where I had trouble doing 100% of everything the most in, or getting everything in, and in those situations, sometimes I was able to do it, and sometimes I wasn't, and I didn't let it bother me too much. It's just unfortunate because I was a couple of gold levels away from getting a gold trophy and getting like the gold rating in like 50 levels, I think the trophy is. RIP. But you know, I'm only gonna let myself get frustrated to a certain extent and do a single level multiple times, so many times, before I just give up on it. So, but I did manage to get the Dreamer orbs in all of the levels except like the trial levels that you saw me doing during the stream, and some of the remix levels. So other than that, and the actual levels of the game, of the story, that aren't challenges or time trials or whatever you want to call that stuff, I managed to get all the Dreamer orbs and golds in, except once I got to near the end of the 4th level, which was the space level, and the final level, that's when things started getting way too difficult for me to do 100% of everything. So I did give up on it. Oof. RIP. I suck. If you can do it, I'm glad you can do it. I just can't. But hey, the fact that I managed to make it that far and get 100% of everything in most of the levels up to that point, except for a couple, hey, that's pretty impressive in my book. Good enough for me. I did get the trophy, the silver trophy, for completing 30 levels without dying, so I'll call that a victory. Yes, it would have been nice to get that gold one, but oh well. So the gameplay is pretty great. Just gets a little too hard, if you ask me. Again, just me. A little too hard near the end of the 4th world and the final world, but that's kind of what you expect from platformers, isn't it? Like, the further you get, the harder it gets. That's kind of the point. So, you know, you gotta just live with it and deal with it. So, but you know, I get through it eventually. I win eventually. And if it gets too frustrating, I just kind of do what I can and accept whatever I get. So, yeah. Very cutesy game. We all need cutesy games. Well, I need cutesy games. I mean, not everyone likes cute games. I don't know how you can, you know, not consider stuff cute. I mean, there are Pokemon that I consider cute and Digimon that I consider cute, but that's a different topic, I suppose. But cutesy platformers, I am just one of those people who do like cutesy platformers and pretty decent platformers. So, yeah. That's what this game is. It's a really good, cutesy, decent platformer that I shouldn't have underestimated. And I regret it extremely. So there you go. Really decent game for the most part. I should not have underestimated it. I don't know how many times I'm going to overstate that, but I should not have underestimated this game. I really shouldn't have. I should have gotten it. But hey, I know better now. I know to be more open-minded now. I'm trying to be more open-minded, but as I've stated before, there are things where I'm just not going to play because I just don't think it's for me. FPS games and Zelda games, and I prefer Yoshi games over Mario games, but and of course I do play the Kirby franchise, but this is really good. It really is. I shouldn't have underestimated it. It's a really decent platformer that has its own sort of unique things to it. Amazing music that I did not expect at all, and just overall great. I mean, yes, the story and the characters are kind of blah and just kind of there. It's a decent underdog story, and the characters are nothing to, you know, praise. But at least they tried, and at least they had a character for each world. That's about all that really matters, I guess. And the story is a decent underdog story for the most part, even if it is still kind of simplistic and generic. But it works for what they're trying to do and trying to accomplish. The world is fine. It's just a LittleBigPlanet world, but with decent variety, with around 5 worlds, give or take. I mean, it's nothing like massive. It's not an 80-hour experience, except if you're me and you're trying to get everything, or doing your best to get everything. So it's not very long. Again, unless you're trying to get everything. But it has a decent variety for its length. Yes, it would have been nice if there was more, but there's always future games, though that's extremely unlikely. Graphics were fine. I thought they were pretty good for this specific game and worked for what they were trying to do and trying to accomplish. That's really all that matters. Sorry. And then, of course, the gameplay is really good. Yes, it gets hard at certain points, but that's kind of the point when it comes to platformers. They get harder the further you get, so it is what it is. And it did have some unique stuff, unique power-ups, and did some unique things with the PlayStation 5 controller, the DualSense. Although, really, the only unique thing it really did in this specific game was the moving it around like you're playing a Nintendo DS or Nintendo 3DS. But at least they did something with it, I guess. Yes, they could have done more, but I still thought that was really unique. Although it is only the literal first PlayStation 5 game I have played. So we'll see what other PlayStation 5 games does with that, but, you know, decent start, I guess. We'll see what other games do in terms of that. So really good. Overall, well, before I get into my score, here's the new thing I'm doing. Here's the score for you for this game from Metacritic. Yeah, so they thought it was pretty decent for the most part. User score is a bit higher than the critic score. I would pretty much agree with this user score. My score is definitely an 8 out of 10, and I would probably take it as far as an 8.5 out of 10, honestly, because it's actually really good and it surprised the hell out of me, and I shouldn't have underestimated it. And the music is so goddamn good. I did not expect the music in this game to be this goddamn good. It really is. I can't praise that enough. I mean, again, it's not near, but it's still pretty goddamn good. So yeah, I would probably go as far as to give this game an 8.5 out of 10. It's really good. I did not expect this game to be as good as it was, and as good as it ended up being. And I still feel like a jerk for that, but I know better now. I shouldn't have underestimated it. It's a good lesson for me, I suppose, to not underestimate games and to actually play games and judge them for them myself instead of just judging it off of this. So yeah, there's the score for you. You can go to the website yourself if you want specifics or specific what people are saying. So yeah, I agree with the user score there. I would definitely go as far as to give it an 8.5 out of 10. It's actually really goddamn good and better than I was expecting. So, nice little surprise here. Nice start for my PlayStation 5 experience. That's all I can really say. I swear, PlayStation, you have a really good platformers here, right under your nose, if you lose Crash and Spyro. But will you ever realize that? Will you actually realize it's literally right under your noses and do more with them and do more for them? Well, let's be brutally honest here. The answer to that is probably not, and we shouldn't expect it. Ugh. Oh well, I guess. You never know, obviously, but needless to say, if they do another game like this, a Sackboy platformer, a Sackboy A Big Adventure 2, I don't know what it would be called. Sackboy Platformer 2, whatever. Another Sackboy platformer. Yeah, I think I'm gonna buy it. I shouldn't have underestimated this game as much as I did. It's a really good platformer. It's a really good cutesy platformer. The story doesn't need to be great, or the characters. It just needs to be really fun and just as good as this. If they have as good as music for the next game, if there is a next game that they did for this game, my God. My God. So goddamn good. More licensed music. Linkin Park? No? Okay. Just ignore me. Anyway, everyone has their preferences. But, yeah, I would definitely buy another Sackboy platformer. Would I buy a LittleBigPlanet game? I don't know. I'm not really big on user-generated games because it feels like the only thing people make, and this has especially been the case in Fall Guys Creative, is that the only thing people seem to make is stuff that's really hard. Like, why? I don't want stuff that's really hard. If you want to make something that's inspired by something or a reference to something, that's fine, but stuff that's really hard? Why? So I'm very iffy when it comes to user-generated stuff because it feels like most of it is stuff that's really hard. So I don't know if I'd play a LittleBigPlanet game, and LittleBigPlanet is more of a multiplayer game, which I don't really play. This game has a multiplayer aspect too, which I did not experience because I don't have PlayStation Plus anymore, and I didn't have anyone to play it with, so it was mostly a single-player experience for me, so I can't really speak on the multiplayer. But multiplayer doesn't really matter to me, but LittleBigPlanet is mostly multiplayer. So because of that, it does kind of turn me away from it. Maybe there's a single player to it. I could be wrong. There might be. Again, you can inform me of these things. I don't know everything, clearly. I'm still learning things myself. I learned to not underestimate this game, but if you want to inform me otherwise, feel free. If the LittleBigPlanet games have like some kind of single-player campaign, if you want to call it that, or not, or if it's just multiplayer only. But if they make another LittleBigPlanet game and it has a single-player mode, then maybe. But that's probably all I'll do with it because I don't really play multiplayer stuff and I don't have anyone to play multiplayer stuff with. So it is what it is, but we'll see at the end of the day. The last game was LittleBigPlanet 3, I believe. So if they make a LittleBigPlanet 4, it's going to depend. It is. So we'll see at the end of the day if I start playing the main franchise. But if they make another Sackboy platformer, all of my yes. All of my yes. So there you go. Play this game for yourself if you want, or don't. Again, it's up to the individual at the end of the day. Just don't underestimate it like I did. Don't make the same mistake. Play it for yourself. Judge it for yourself. It's actually really goddamn good. It really is. Can't say that enough. So that's all I got for you. A solid 8.5 out of 10 for me. So, do I want another Sackboy platformer? Yes. But I also want a full Astrobot game. But this is stuff we're never going to get. We might get a full Astrobot game, but my expectation isn't very high. It's pretty much bottom of the barrel, but PlayStation just doesn't know what they're sitting on. Oh well. So my next game is the whole reason why I bought a PlayStation 5 in the first place. Why did I want a PlayStation 5 in the first place? For Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Yes, it took me this long to play it. My backlog is bad. How many times do I have to say that, too? I am going for the Platinum for this game, because apparently I've heard it's easy for the most part, so I will be attempting the Platinum for this game. So that's a thing. Wow, all of my Platinums are in the second half of the year. Imagine that. But yeah, that's my next game, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. So I'll see you for that video when I give my full thoughts for that. There's just one thing, though, that I have to let you know about. After this game, I am finally, at long last, getting to a certain game that, let's just say, I thought was nothing but a pipe dream. I streamed a demo of it in the past. That's all the hints you're getting. I've talked about it on Discord. God, just one more game and I get to finally play that. But let's focus on Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart for now. This is my next game. I don't know if I'll start it as soon as today that I'm making this video. If not, then, I'll get to it when it installs, because God, the PlayStation 5 install takes quite a long time. So, we'll see, but until I give my full thoughts for Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, that's all I got for you for now. So until then, or until something else happens, there's a rumored Pokemon Presents next week, but I kind of don't see a point in doing a video for that, but unless they reveal, like, something that's not Detective Pikachu 2 or the release dates for the Scarlet and Violet DLC, but only time will tell. But unless something else happens, I'll see ya for either the Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart stream. I am going to stream it at some point, so that's probably when you'll see me next. So until then, this is MegaChamp saying next time I'll be providing you with more unlimited guidance. Do not underestimate this game. Just don't. It's actually really good. Music is amazing. At least try it out. Up to you at the end of the day, but I have learned my lesson, and I will buy another game if one is ever made, but it's doubtful, so. Bye!